Hello and welcome to everybody who is joining this latest in the series of women testing videos. My name is Debbie Archer. I'm delighted to have with me Pauline Alfonso, who's from the Curacao Testing Qualifications Board and also a senior consultant at ITUL. Thank you for joining me, Pauline.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
Pauline, over the last few months, we've been talking to women in testing about their experiences, sharing insight, sharing some of the opportunities, some of the challenges, and just kind of discussing some of the things that you feel other women may find useful, and indeed men, with having that, other perspective perhaps. So just to kind of kick things off, maybe you could tell me a little bit about what you currently do and a little bit about how you got to this place.
Okay. Currently, I'm working more in the consultancy of transformation and digitalization of work process. And I work for about now more than 25 years at this company. But I started as Oracle developer. And then afterwards, I was asking myself, maybe there is more to software development. And I was more interested in testing the software that we built. And that was, I made a switch. And it was more interesting to me to have more interactions with the user, with the end users, and also to make the bridge between the user and the development. So that was more interaction, and it was more challenging to me. And it just brought more of me than just the development, receiving requirements and then building something that you expect the user to be using as you have interpreted the requirements. So, and then I have done some testing and also do some management, manage some project, the test part, and that's what I have done. And currently, I'm more concentrated on a TMMI, how to do the assessment, and also on this island, Curacao, and also the region, how to bring the whole test quality of software testing on a higher level. So that is more what I concentrated on this moment. And
the change from developer to tester, you mentioned that one of the drivers was working with the end user. That suggests to me that you wanted to perhaps leverage some of the softer skills, perhaps more than the technical skills. But I'm assuming that there were a certain level of technical skills also needed for, to move into the testing role.
Yes. It was a combination that the soft skills about how to communicate with the user on another level, how to see what they're really interesting, what really they want with the application. So it's not just letters, words that you have to interpret and then make a solution. But if you're going to talk with the people on another level, you're going to see, no, this is what they want. This is what they expect you to understand. And I have a background of applied physics, so I'm very analytic, but also can be very strict. And then see that, I have to look at another way to the software, but also to another way about how people function. And see that you have those skills and that people appreciate to be maybe consulted or maybe be heard on what they want to, and also to be taken seriously. When you testing, you have to take people seriously, because if they say it's not working, maybe they say something more about only it's not working. And I think that women have the ability to communicate to uh, um, uh, other groups of people than men can do. Men can be very concentrated. This is what it is. This is what I understand. What is written here, and this is what I'm going to build. And maybe between the lines, there's some more, and you have to communicate with those people. But also to communicate with the development group, that's also a challenge.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it has to be in a way that they understand it's not bad. It has to be in another way built.
Did you ever have times where you struggled with that communication?
Yes, to be taken seriously, yes, and to be for okay. It's. I'm not accusing. I'm not saying that you have built something that you it's not useful. It's only that you want to say about what you have built. It's not about you, and it's not about you. Um, Qualifications, but it has to be in a way. So I have to be very careful to say the software has to do this and this, and not only that what you have built. So it's a challenge, but it's also very rewarding. If you see, okay, I'm making progress with it, they understand me, they're taking me seriously, and it's also always nice to see if you're having progress with that.
I
I
was
like
re- I was reading an article by the World Economic Forum earlier, and it was talking about the gender gap. And there was a statement in it which struck me, and it said that one of the things employers can do is to look at the job roles they're advertising and think about how they can be more appropriate for, you know, all genders. Because it was suggesting that there's still perhaps in job adverts, job role descriptions, a male bias. And I was thinking about this, and what does it mean? Do you think it's because sometimes the job roles are still focusing a lot on the kind of the technical aspects of the role, which are obviously very important, but perhaps all losing out because there's not that focus on maybe some of the what we call soft skills. We can debate whether soft skills is the right word for these skills or not, of course. Do you think that perhaps that some of those aren't actually being portrayed in the right sort of way? I don't know. It's just a sentence that struck me as interesting.
yes. I think unconsciously some expectations are being put in advertising some vacancy or anything else, and it's maybe because the person who's going to write it down is a male person. Maybe I say maybe, I don't know for sure, but and it's a thing that we used to do that in that way for years. And if we for testing, I think we have to look at people with a broad skill. They dominate, and I think we have to mention all of them, and not all. I mean the most important one, because I think it's not only the technical, and I know some ladies are very technical. Yeah? So it's not about the gender, but about the skills that some person has. I mean, I have also males that have very good soft skills,
Yes.
and they have to know they can do that also. Don't be pressed in that direction. So no, the only thing I can do is is software development. No, be open and do that also. If you have the skills, if you convince you have them, you can do that. And testing have a list of skills that you have to have to do so. And I encourage women in testing. If you want to do it, do it. And if you want to um, see more of the technical part, if you want to follow some programming just to get a better understanding, just do that. Just do that. It's not first. It's going to be intimidated. You know the kind of things you're going to struggle with. Is that right for me? I don't know, and just take the step.
You talked about making the move from development into testing. Obviously, you spotted an opportunity and thought, I'm going to go for that. What advice would you give to other women about recognizing opportunities and perhaps some of the approaches to, really grasping the opportunity they can take?
I saw the opportunity because I was working on a big project, and they were starting the testing of that the software, and I was feeling very, not feeling a little bit uncomfortable with only developing and only sitting at one desk and doing that. And they were asking for testers, so I make myself available, and I told my team leader, I want to do that. I want to explore that possibility. And so they agree with me, and I move on to another part of the project. So I was very in that thinking, okay, I'm going to let something go and go for another. It's kind of career switch, and make a decision and go in another direction. So that was the moment I made that decision. And I really don't regret that I made that decision. And I did some course and training after that to get more qualifications, and also in the Netherlands. So be proactive if you see that opportunity, and get your certification, get some training on that. I mean, ISTQB have a lot of training, so um, don't hesitate,
Yeah.
take a chance.
Yeah. Feel the fear and just do it anyway.
Yes.
And looking back throughout your careers, we've done several of these interviews, and we've talked about all sorts of things from corporate bias, where culture is perhaps not the best culture for women to fit into, through to how women themselves feel with that imposter syndrome. Am I good enough to do this job?
Mhm.
But all sorts of things that women feel in throughout their careers. What do you feel is perhaps the biggest challenge that you have faced during your career?
The biggest challenge, I think, the thing is, David, that I'm used to a very male-dominated environment, and I have studied in a very male. I was the only two ladies studying applied physics, and I'm very used to that. But I think taken seriously, they don't. The male dominated culture has a very problem with that, taking ladies and telling them this is not good. You better do it in another way so it can be more useful. Um, that is the main thing I struggle with. And I think another one is they are very also convinced what I have um, built. It's done. It's okay. It's okay. Just not very conscious, but it can have some faults, some errors, and that is one my last experience with a colleague. He was very convinced. It wasn't that I was telling him. He was very convinced. It can be that it's not working okay. Yes, but the client told us they have some problems in with that. So that's the thing we confronted with, and not, yes, not open for other ideas.
I mentioned that I read this report this morning from the World Economic Forum, and a statistic that hit me quite hard was that the gender gap, and this is European organisations, is 67.7%, I think it said, and it would take another 60 years before the gender gap is narrowed. And it really hit me hard. 60 years. It's kind of, my goodness me. And of course, they've got various programs in place with, the Gender Gap Accelerator and what have you, to try to help employers, governments, etc., to close that gender gap. But it struck me 60 years is a long time. It's a long time.
Yes.
So thinking about women entering the workplace and some of the things that perhaps hold them back. We've explored this in previous interviews, but it's really good to have other perspectives. Having children, how does that affect the career? How do you manage to have a career and look after the kids and support the family? Perhaps increasingly with older parents, it's often left to the female daughter to help support older parents. How have you managed that throughout your career?
Now, for me, it's very simple. I don't have children. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. I see my colleagues with children, and it's a challenge to manage all these things. If you have a family, I'm not married. If you have a family, you have to take time with your husband and children, and also be dedicated to your work. So I can imagine that making a good management of your time, it's crucial for you, and taking set realistic goals and have patience. Don't be so stressed, and because life can learn you other things, and just be very stressed that you have to achieve things in unrealistic time span. So be realistic and try to enjoy what you have done, and see that you manage your time, and that you can have a life that you can be over 30 or maybe 10 or 20 years. You can be very content and very proud of what you have achieved, not only with testing, but your whole life.
Absolutely.
Be realistic.
One of the things that, again, I do quite a lot of reading that they're talking about at the moment is burnout in women. And, of course, burnout happens across all genders. But in women particularly, recently, it has become an increasing problem. I think, obviously, with post-pandemic, with everything that's been happening, it's having a big impact. And I'm very interested in what tactics women can use to try to avoid this, And I think your advice about enjoying the moment, looking at what you're achieving, is really good, solid advice. But I'm also wondering, how do you avoid that being, so burnt out because you're so focused on work, you feel so driven to always achieve 120% to prove yourself because you're a woman, perhaps. Do you have some thoughts around that, Pauline?
Debbie, I was in the weekend. I did listen to, I'd say a lecture. Let me say a lecture about depression, and women suffer a lot of depression. And maybe I want to advise that women should take that seriously. And burnout has to do with depression.
Yes.
And see the sign, and maybe if you are not long in that period, take some measures, some adjustment, so that you don't get to the end of it, so you can save yourself. But if it has been a long time, just seek medical attention, because it's a big issue. I mean, mental health is a big issue now. And I'm aware of that now, but that I have listened to the lecture, and I want to encourage women.
Yes.
Be very conscious about that. Be really realistic about the goals. And when it's time to set goals, be really realistic and just enjoy. Try to enjoy what you are doing and see that you can be proud. You have to be proud of yourself. I mean, that's the thing. And set realistic goals. And if I mean, I cannot do things that I have done 10 years ago. No way. No way. So the lecture made me very conscious of that, and how it can begin with little things, little symptoms. And mental health, it affects women more than men.
Very important that we recognise
Get
that you are struggling and get some help. Looking to the future of testing, what skills do you think are going to be important in the future? What do you think, if you were thinking ahead, you think, actually, I'd focus on these things?
Technical skills or soft skills, or in general?
Both, either.
I think you have to be aware of the development of all the new apps that are coming, and variety of all the kinds of apps, and gaming and security and all the kind of things. You have to be aware of that, and be open to learn more about how to test specific things. Me, myself, I'm more concentrated on the core. I'm not in the special things about testing. And also about the security of the test software. And I think time to market is going to be very short.
Yes.
But they're not very conscious that we have to spend enough time to do testing. So we have to claim time for testing anyway. Because they're going to build more software and more software, but we have to guarantee somewhere the quality of the software they bring to market has to be of a certain decent level of quality. So we have to claim time for testing somewhere and demonstrate that testing has to be done and to guarantee the customer, the customer some kind of quality of product.
Absolutely. So becoming that advocate for testing is increasingly important.
Yes.
Great. Pauline, it's been lovely to spend some time with you, and really, as always, a great discussion. We've been so lucky with the interviews that we've been doing with amazing ladies. Thank you ever so much, and thank you to people who have actually tuned into this video. It's much appreciated, and please do comment. If you'd like to ask Pauline anything, then pop it into the comment box and we'll feed it through to Pauline and ask her if she can actually share a response.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for the information, and I hope what I have shared with you and also with the audience will encourage them to be more involved in testing and see what career they want to have in testing, and just be who they are, and just enjoy life and see what else they can do.
That's wonderful. Thank you again, Pauline. Thank you. Take good care. Bye-bye all. Bye.